Yeah, I want to talk to everyone regarding whenever the doctors or the hospitals are saying if you have someone contaminated with coronavirus or any other kind of a contaminant sickness, to go ahead and put them in an isolation room or confinement room, and that sounds great. But one of the things that nobody's mentioning is that that particular room that they put in this sick person needs to be in a negative pressure. And I'm going to explain here briefly what do I mean by negative pressure. And that's very important because if a room is not placed under negative pressure, you just put a patient in a confinement room or in isolation, the air from that room continues circulating throughout the home, which means eventually some of the other family members or relatives, may also start getting in sick or contaminated. And the reason is because the room has not been placed under negative pressure. And here I have a couple of houses, the same floor plan, except I'm going to show you what do I mean by negative room. Here we have a house that is used normally. You have a central air, you have your vents, and let's just say you put in the person here, the sick person in that room, and what happens as this person is there, with all the bacteria, virus, it all comes back down to the central air, and it comes back and it recirculates back through every room, and it's a constant turnaround, circulating throughout the house. Eventually, all the other residents in the homes may start developing the symptoms that the sick person has, even though it's in confinement. What should be considered is putting in the house into what's called a negative pressure, not the house, but the room. And let's say you have the person right here that is sick in this particular room. Down in here, what we call is a negative pressure, which means this room is under negative pressure. What that means is that you have a fan on one of the windows. It doesn't matter which one. You put enough amount of fan on any of the windows, and that allows for air to continuously go in this direction. It would only go in that direction, not allowing any air getting back to the rest of the home and possibly contaminating the rest of the family members. This ensures that air is always going in through here and back to the outside. It is possibly suggested to also close this vent, that AC vent, so that it doesn't create a positive room in that confined room. You want to be able to close this vent, put in a fan, and adjust the airflow in the fan so that you always have a negative pressure going in that direction. That room will not get as warm as you might think it does because you're going to be drawing air, cold air from the rest of the home and always going through this fan to the outdoors. This keeps the family members safe and hopefully they won't get contaminated. The sick person in there in that confinement or isolation room eventually will get better, and that's because it's constantly breathing or relying on fresh air coming in to the room. Again, this is the house, and I put a check mark that this is the way a properly ventilated isolation room should be done. You can use a fan or any other means as long as you put this room into a negative pressure. A little later, I'm going to show you how to test the room if it's under negative pressure or positive pressure. The idea is that we don't want air coming back. As mentioned before, this room in isolation has no negative pressure, which means the air from the AC vent, it comes back into the rest of the house. If anybody has any questions or any comments, you can send an email to hessair@hessair.com. Put a question or comments that you have, and we'll be happy to reply with your questions and answer any questions you might have. Thank you.